Well, hello everybody. Welcome back into the Color Gemstone Academy. I am your host, Paul Deasy, and this is my YouTube channel, Paul Deasy Gemstones. Now, if you have not done so yet, please hit that subscribe button. Remember, I know that it says subscribe, and you think maybe it's going to cost something. It's completely free. But the more that you subscribe, the better it allows me to make these videos for you and continue to do so. Now, this is the latest of iterations of the show, where I decided on, I'm getting a lot of great questions from you guys, so I decided each Wednesday now at 5 p.m. I'm going to release, that's 5 p.m. Eastern time I should say, I'm planning to release questions and answers, and actually I should say questions and comments, because you've had a lot of great comments, a lot of great questions, and I want to answer them on a format here that doesn't take time away from our other lessons. So we're going to jump right into it, and I'm going to try and get to maybe 4 or 5 each time. They're not all questions, some of them will be comments, but I know that some of you that had either criticisms or praise of the show, I didn't want you to not be recognized as well. So we're going to start with one of our newer subscribers called Manifesting You. And she was commenting on episode 21, which is Turquoise 101. And she said, "This is the best video on turquoise. So many others were so confusing. Excellent. Thanks for the great content." Well, Manifesting You, thank you very much for your comments. I do appreciate that. Sala N has a great question. And he said, "Is stabilized and impregnated turquoise the same? Or is there any difference?" Okay, now the answer is yes and no. And let me answer it to you this way. Impregnated turquoise, so all impregnated turquoise, would be considered stabilized turquoise, but not all stabilized turquoise is impregnated turquoise. So let me put it this way. The most common method for stabilizing turquoise is infusing it with a colorless resin or oil, and that would be considered stabilized, the stabilization method. But there are other methods that don't use any impregnation in that method of stabilizing, and one of those would be called the Zachary method. I did a whole explanation on that in another video. I don't remember which lesson that was, but I'll try and find it and post it when this one hits at 5 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday. So there's your answer. Most turquoise is stabilized. Most of the stabilized turquoise uses an impregnation method. Some do not, and that would be the Zachary method as one example. So Sala, I hope that answers your question. Here's one from Tattoo of the Sun. I love some of these names. Tattoo of the Sun says, and he was watching episode 23, which was on a great turquoise from Nevada called number 8 turquoise. And he said, "Fantastic, totally awesome story. I love this. As a turquoise lover, some of the backstory is a mystery, and even books about turquoise don't offer any details." Well, one of the things that I can definitely tell you is when you do travel to the mines and you do meet a lot of people in the industry, you have a lot of stories that don't appear in any books. So I'm glad that you enjoyed the stories on the number 8 turquoise. It really is one of my favorite turquoises. Okay, now this one from Tommy L on episode 40, which dealt with turquoise, real, simulated, fakes, and wannabes. So I talked a lot about different methods in the turquoise there. And he said, "Wow, this was a great lesson. Quick question, what are the 3 best places to know to get turquoise from, or should I say countries that have the best turquoise? Your lessons are awesomeness for this collector." Well, thank you, Tommy. I do appreciate that. To answer your question, and I'm actually answering it for everybody because I know that I answered to this through my YouTube channel to you already. First of all, America generally is respected as having some of the best turquoise in the world. China produces probably 80% of the world's turquoise, but there's still very much a cachet of turquoise from the southwest part of the United States, and also Mexico as well. As far as places that you might want to visit, one would be just north of the town of Kingman, Arizona, is the Kingman Turquoise Mine. It's actually in a place called Golden Valley, Arizona, just north of the city of Kingman. He happens to have a storefront in his mining operation, so it's really right off the road. You can pull in. You can buy turquoise directly from a mine, and not many of you get an opportunity to do just that. Another great source for you that I told Tommy, and I'm telling all of you now, I would call Ernie Montoya out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, probably the most important source of turquoise in the entire world. There's nobody in the turquoise business who doesn't know who Ernie Montoya is. He has a store that literally the city of Albuquerque grew up around his store. It's this tiny little shop in the middle of the downtown, which now has big high-rise buildings. He's still there every single day. They have tremendous turquoise. They have great Native American made pieces of jewelry, and he has things other than turquoise there as well. So if you do get the chance, and Tommy, if you're looking for a place to go, you go to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and you look at Sunwest Silver, which is Ernie Montoya's place. Okay, and now we have something that is kind of sort of a criticism, and I'm not going to shy away from those either. This is from Terry C. And forgive me, Terry C., if I sort of edited your question because it was a little hard to understand with some of the punctuation. So I cleaned it up for you a little bit. And Terry C. watched episode 21, which is Turquoise 101 again. And she said, I disagree on stabilized or treated turquoise. It suffocates the stone from its true color that will come out when it's not stabilized or treated. Also, it is so much prettier when it absorbs oils off your own body. It will help strengthen it, like when the old timers used mineral oil. They would let it soak in mineral oil for just seconds, not long, or handle it. It gets on the oil and you can see so much different matrix in it. It isn't brittle. I'm not a geologist, but I am a turquoise hound since I was in the 2nd grade. Here in Nevada, I have learned from testing it and from old timers. There aren't too many of the old timers left, but yeah, I'm sorry that I disagree with you. There are other facts and stories on what you're saying on here that are so different than what I learned over here in our community about the story of our turquoise mine. I just got on here to see if your story is the same as ours. Plus, yes, there is purple turquoise. I have some. There are all kinds of colors in turquoise. Just saying, from a soon-to-be old-timer soon. LOL. Okay, Terry. There's a lot to unpack in what you said. And no one has to ever apologize for disagreeing with me. I love having dialogue on turquoise. There's a couple of things that I'm going to take away from this. So, and by the way, I count myself as an old timer too. I'm going to be 61 years old come February 15th. Okay. Here's a short version of a lot of things that you said, and I'll try and answer them one by one. Where you are in Nevada, and she said that she's in Nevada and been since the 2nd grade. There are certain mines in Nevada that have turquoise that is naturally so hard because of the rock content in it that it doesn't need to be stabilized. Now that being said, and I've been to some of them, Royston, turquoise, a couple of others, we took it right from the ground into a grinding wheel and it was fine. Others like Kingman, Marty Colbaugh would take his turquoise, which is in Arizona, onto a grinding wheel, and I saw it disintegrate before my very eyes. But having visited so many turquoise mines and met some of the legends that you talk about, the old timers like Lynn Otteson or his son Dean Otteson. Dean Otteson is since deceased. Marty Colbaugh, Josh Colbaugh, his son. Josh is the 4th generation miner in the Kingman turquoise mine. And and my friend Peter Vida, who's been in turquoise since he was a teenager, he's now in his 70s. Ernie Montoya, who I mentioned a little bit earlier, knows more about turquoise than anyone I've ever met in my life. I've asked all of those people on camera and off and said, what percentage of turquoise in the world would you say is stabilized? And they all have about the same answer. They say somewhere between 95 and 98% of all the turquoise these days is stabilized. And I've been on a very big mission to tell people that that's not a bad word. That is actually a very good word. But in your description to me, when you talked about the mineral oil, that is actually what you described is a method of stabilization. So I know, Terry, you said you don't like stabilization, you prefer it not to be. But when you talked about the old timers dipping the turquoise in mineral oil and letting it soak in there for a while, that is indeed a method of stabilization. In fact, if you go back 6,000 years and we talk about the Persian Empire and their turquoise, they were stabilizing turquoise 6,000 years ago by soaking their turquoise in a solution of beeswax. Now, obviously the process today is much more sophisticated than just rubbing it with mineral oil. But it is in fact a method of stabilization that you described that the old timers are doing. Now, let's get to something where you said, because I said, I was actually talking about some Kingman turquoise, and I talked about the purple Mojave turquoise, and you said, I have purple turquoise, I know that it exists, turquoise can come in many colors. All of that is true. There are trace elements in turquoise that can add certain colors, or when you see brown or black chert and matrix that's in there. That's okay. So pardon the interruption with the phone ringing. I use my phone as my microphone. Even though I shut things off, sometimes phone calls still get through. But I was starting to describe the different colors of turquoise being in part of the matrix and things like that. But there's really no naturally occurring pure purple turquoise. And there's, and I suspect there's a couple of things. I'm going to show you a type of turquoise that some people might say has a little bit of purple or maroon in it, and that is the famous Bisbee turquoise out of Bisbee, Arizona. And I'm going to show a picture of that on your screen right now, and you can see that kind of color might be interpreted as being a little bit of purple turquoise. Now, by contrast, I want to show you what I describe when I'm talking about the purple Mojave turquoise coming from the Kingman mine. And there's a picture on your screen of that, and that's a completely artificial color of purple that is in that turquoise. In fact, it is dyed. And Marty Colbaugh, the miner, is very upfront about that process and the different colors that he has, the green and the purple. And if I did not explain to you that that is not the natural color of purple or that it is dyed, that would be very wrong. As a gemologist, you're just obligated to disclose everything you know about the treatment of a gemstone. Now, I would also submit to you that there are probably some people out there that have a gem called sugilite. And I'm going to put that picture on your screen. That's a really beautiful purple. Sometimes you'll see white in it, but it's a beautiful purple stone, but it isn't turquoise. Now, some people might think it's turquoise, or because of the consistency of the stone, assume that it's turquoise, but that would not be purple turquoise either. Very similarly, there's a gemstone out there that I love that is called variscite. And I'm going to show a picture of variscite on your screen. And a lot of people looking at this picture might think, well, that looks an awful lot like turquoise. In fact, a lot of times that has been sold as turquoise, even though it is not, because variscite has absolutely no copper in it. Now, from all the lessons I've given you on turquoise, remember I always say turquoise is a hydrous phosphate of copper and aluminum. If you don't have copper, you don't have turquoise. Variscite doesn't have copper, therefore it isn't turquoise. So I hope that clears up a little bit. But and again, I love your passion, Terry. Do not apologize for not agreeing with me. I never lose that passion. We can continue to have a dialogue about what is turquoise and what is not turquoise. And like you, I qualify as an old timer. Well, that's going to be this for this. That's going to be one more time. That'll be it for this lesson of the new question and answer, question and comments category of the Color Gemstone Academy. This will happen every single Wednesday. As long as I keep getting questions from you, I'll continue to report them. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have not subscribed, please do so. It really helps me out. Thanks, everybody.